Welcome back yet again after a brief pause, brief little hiatus from the pod. We're back again. This is the MLS Net Boys show. My name is Chase. I'm here with Jacob. How are you doing? How was our little vacation from podcasting?
It was good. I was in Alabama and very far away from the world of MLS, and part of me, I was checking in my hotel and there was a conference room there that you could use, and it was open. I was like, man, should have brought the laptop. We should have zoomed and chatted up some MLS, but that's all right.
Legit.
We're here. We're here for another week.
I think I would have preferred some Birmingham Legion talk instead. Just dive into the history of a USL team.
Respect to that. 54, episode 54 of the pod. We're climbing.
That's wild. Still no intro. I don't know if we ever will. I keep saying I'm going to do it, and then just never happens.
It's all right. We got an established intro, so it's not like we're not in the abyss.
I think we should commit to the idea of singing a different intro every time.
Just different early 2000s punk rock songs.
Just dubbed
to the tune
over,
of MLS.
Just dubbed over with MLS player names.
Dude, we got to get an AI generated audio clip of Jake Ziven, lead MLS commentator, singing all these songs. I think that would be fire.
I bet we could probably pay Jake Ziven. I wonder if he's on Cameo. That'd be kind of sick to get that guy on Cameo.
There was some weird MLS representation on Cameo.
I remember that.
Remember that? I remember Chase and I and some buddies were going to start we did start an ultimate team league in 3 years ago or something like that, 2021, and we were looking on there, and I wanted to see if there was some MLS voice where we could have the winning person in our ultimate team league on FIFA get a shout out from some pro player. And it was the most random people you could imagine. Ricardo Pepi was on there when he was at FC Dallas, and he was on there for $10, if I recall correctly.
I'm looking right now, and I gotta say this is outrageous. All right, so I'm gonna name these guys. I want you to try and guess the price that they're charging. Julian Gressel. How much is Julian Gressel charging people for a short shout-out video?
This guy, he's up to something because he's started a podcast now that he's with Messi and friends. I feel like he's trying to cash in on the moment. I'm going $250.
$50.
Okay.
That's fair. $50 isn't bad. Kwadwo Opoku. Not the most noticeable name in the league by any means. It still has him listed as an LAFC player.
It's not great.
So,
$25.
$50.
Okay, wouldn't pay for 50.
Let's go with
either,
somebody a little less noticeable. Aaron Mound. I don't know.
Is that RSL guy? Or
it has him listed as Vancouver Whitecaps.
Okay, better be less than. It's got to be lower, man. $10.
Close. 15.
Okay, respect, Aaron.
All right. Last one, I'll have you guess. Robbie Robinson. Big name player.
Is he still at Miami? Or
I think so. Is he injured maybe? I don't know.
Forgot about that dude.
Or is he one of the casualties that went to Montreal?
I'm going to go $40.
$500.
That is outrageous. That guy has lost the plot.
He's still at Miami. Absolutely insane. That guy's charging by far the most.
When was the last time that guy did something in MLS?
It's been a long time.
Their first season, maybe 2021. That is nuts.
Some of the other names here, we got Justin Miram, $150. CJ Sapong, $60. And you got Russell Knaus, $75. Tell me that's not your dream TST team right there. You got Julian Gressel, Robbie Robinson, Justin Miram, Kwadwo Opoku, CJ Sapong, Aaron Mound, and Russell Knaus.
That feels like the next iteration of Moedu and Sasha Kleshtin and
these are the fools that we're gonna see on the MLS wrap up here pretty soon.
They're gonna be doing those sort of Charlie Davies, those sorts of guys.
Also, all of them are like pictures of them like in a soccer game, except CJ Sapong. It's just him wearing like a nice button up, doing like the like the hang loose sign with like some sunglasses on. So just so you know, he's chill.
Hey man, he's already in that personality mode. You got to respect that. Shall we talk MLS?
We shall. I was gonna ask though, if you could pick one MLS personality to be on Cameo, who would it be? Could be past, present, or future.
I mean, one
could be
that
a future talent.
I was gonna ask jokingly, but I feel like this is something he would do. I would not pay any amount of money to do it, but I feel like Vanni Sartini was made for this sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want it.
It's very socialist of him.
I didn't ask for it, but I feel like I can see this guy on there.
That absolute dweeb. Just, I could see that.
Once again, give me Ben Olsen. I would love a cameo from Ben Olsen.
I'll do you one better. Old Peter Vermees on there.
Man.
Just imagine you get a video sent from one of your buddies on your birthday, and it's just you open it, it's just PV. Like his camera is at like a weird angle because he doesn't really know how to use.
I was just gonna say it's like when you call your grandpa and he's holding it like a cell phone, so it's just showing his ear and like the corner of his face.
He's using his iPad and he's just smacking gum and just like shouts at you about your birthday or something. You see he took his iPad into a press conference this week, by the way?
I did, and he was like showing. You gotta love that.
What an unhinged man. I love Peter Vermees, dude. That guy's awesome.
I agree. I agree.
I would pay $500 to get a cameo from him, not Robbie Robinson.
Same. That guy's earned his stripes in the cameo world for MLS. We're going to start with Austin FC taking on the LA Galaxy. First game of the weekend. Austin wins 2-0 against, at the time, top of the West Galaxy. Big upset. You got O'Brien scoring, and
it actually counted this time before he celebrated.
Before he celebrated with his son. Huge.
It's just, I still can't get over the fact that happened to that guy like 2 weeks in a row.
Man, Austin, after that, once again, another terrible start, wins over Houston and the Galaxy. Like, trending in the right direction. Also, randomly, you see that Real Madrid president, Florentino Perez, was here at the game?
What? Really?
Yeah. I saw.
For what? Who's he watching?
I have no idea. Maybe I have no idea. I don't have any potential links in my brain. I just saw it because somebody on Twitter commented. I guess he was an Austin FC and Real Madrid fan, and yeah, Chase just gives me a weird eyebrow look. That's the thing, I guess. But he just commented, "What is this demon doing in my stadium?" Talking about Perez. I was like, "What the heck?"
Dude, obviously they're scouting Alex Ring.
Hey,
they're in need of a lockdown defensive mid to partner with Camavinga and Bellingham.
No, dude. You know what I think it is? They let Karim Benzema go last summer. Diego Rubio put in a nice shift at the number 9.
You don't think they want Yoder O'Brien just to partner up there with Vinicius and Endrick when he comes into play?
This is constantly the best part of this podcast is whenever we spit back
Dude,
potential MLS.
Why are we exclusively going Austin players here? Maybe he's scouting some, scouting a little bit of Galaxy talent.
Miguel Berry started at number 9.
Maybe he's looking for Miguel Berry to come in and give him that stud up top, If they get Miguel Berry, they don't have to go out and splash the cash on Mbappe in the summer,
That's true. That's a well point. Huge 3 points for Austin. That's the tip of our analysis for that game. I think it's more enjoyable. We're not going to pretend to be, running up the stats or crunching the numbers. We're going off vibes tonight. Cincinnati hosting the Colorado Rapids. A 2-1 win for Cincy. You got Lucho Acosta scoring, as well as Corey Baird getting a goal for Cincy. And with that, Lucho Acosta becomes the all-time leading goal scorer in Cincy history. One of a few this weekend who
with
put their name.
braids as well. We were watching all the goals before this again, just looking over him, and he just looks so silly. I know he didn't have that much hair before then, so he definitely got hair extensions so that he could get braids. Silly activities for a grown man. It gives me like
Rooney when he got hair plugs.
Rooney or like Dairon Asprilla, like circa like 2020 when he had a different hairstyle every week, and it looked like he would get like, but his hair extensions would be like a foot long and they'd just be hanging off the back of his head, and then you'd see him like the next day without him. It was weird.
I do remember that.
The Crab Man though, finally getting his first goal in Cincy. Corey Baird. I kind of was just mocking this like trade for a while now because he just hasn't done anything, and now they're actively looking for forwards, but. Good for him. Maybe he can start building some momentum. He's needed a goal to get him, off the mark there in Cincy.
I think it's kind of what we've said, and a lot of people are saying. Corey Baird is a great striker. Any team would be lucky to have, but he's not gonna replace or be a star number 9 for your team in MLS in 2024. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
First guy off the bench though. Like, you could do a lot worse in MLS. That'd be great business. But
that is true.
We're going to move on. Columbus Crew hosting CF Montreal. The clash of styles. You got Wilfred Nancy, Laurent Courtois, after Columbus took down Monterrey in the Champions League midweek. But this game finishes 0-0. Boring.
Yeah, not much to say other than this was like a heavily rotated Columbus side after a huge result midweek. But honestly, I mean, I don't think either team can be disappointed here. Columbus, heavily rotated, managed a point. Montreal on the road against the best team in the league, managed a point. Not much else to say.
And it's 0-0. We don't want to talk about 0-0s. We're going to talk about...
I actually want to dive into how Montreal utilized Zone 14 on the field to heavily pin in Malte Oddmundson. No, I'm not going to do that.
That's great banter. We're going to move on. DC United, my second favorite team this week, beat your Seattle Sounders 2-1 at Audi Field in DC. Leo Chu opens the scoring, but then the wheels fall off once again for Seattle. Stephen Fry gets a red card, pulls down a player in the box. DC gets a penalty. Benteke converts, scores, and then scores again. 2-1 DC. Seattle Sounders will find a way to get a red card and blow up the game in their own face. You can count on it.
You know what I think is funny is this week Diego Chara broke a record for most appearances, and he got a red card as well. And we'll talk about that later, but I just saw an insane amount of Seattle fans in every comment section and he got a red card to prove it because he's a dirty player. And, like, I just think it's hilarious because they have so many red cards this season. It's just...
It's been, like... I'm going to do my research if you want to just trash on Seattle a little more. Like,
I don't even want to trash on them at this point because it's just...
kind of sad, honestly.
It's been rough, and... I mean, they're so far down. I mean, we're right above them. We're not much better off. But I mean, it's so unheard of for Seattle to be this poor that I think it's brought even more attention on them. Like, you're starting to finally see the MLS media kind of come around and start to question what's going on with this team. But I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what do they do to change this? I think one of the biggest things they could do, and they did this game, I mean, before they got a red card, was putting Musovski up top. I mean, having a guy like that, I mean, if Rui Diaz isn't going to be scoring, crazy deflected volleys from outside the box every week, and then Jordan Morris just looks lost up there, you got to give somebody else a chance, and you brought Musovski in for a reason. He's a proven forward in this league. He did it with RSL, LAFC, RSL again. I mean, he's looked good in this league, so why not give him a chance? And I think, it's unfortunate the game they finally decided to give him that chance. He he got subbed out after they got a red card. So, unfortunate for him, but I just don't know what else is the issue. I guess like be a little bit more disciplined. Don't just give up silly red cards constantly.
There's so many factors to get into, and I don't even know where to begin, honestly. Like, Pedro de la Vega is going to be out about 3 more weeks, maybe 4, I think is the number I heard. And this team needs to shake it up in the summer transfer window if they want any shot of doing something. If they just run it back, which I would love as a Portland fan, it's going to get ugly because San Jose made a big move. One of the teams below them. They spent big, broke their transfer record, bought a number 10. Austin's trending in the right direction. Like, they were below at one point. Dallas just got a win last night, 2 nights ago, as of recording this. So it's going to be ugly for Seattle, which I don't mind. You don't mind. Nobody in the state of Oregon minds. So we're going to move on. The New England Revolution hosted Inter Miami. And for about 37 seconds, this was a dream scenario for the Revs. You got 65,000 people screaming. You got the Minutemen wearing their boat hats.
The Midnight Riders are there in full effect behind the goal.
I wonder if they did the Tea Party dump thing.
With, like, Messi's face on it.
Something like that. But the Revs score 37 seconds in. Thomas Chonkele, nice chip. Then Miami scores 4 goals. Messi with a brace. Suarez gets a goal.
Messi almost with a hat trick as well, because Kremashki's goal was him following up on a deflected shot from Messi. But yeah, Miami just looks good. I mean, granted, New England's not good. They look bad, but Miami just seems to find a way. Messi, I mean, after this game, he has Jacob just absolutely destroying a Crystal Geyser water bottle right now. But Messi, after this game, I mean, he's played 7 games. He has 9 goals and 7 assists. Almost 2.5 goal contributions a game, which is absolutely insane.
The MLS Apple crew threw up a stat, and it was most goal contributions after 7 games to start a season. And Messi is 16, right? Below him was Thierry Henry in 2012.
13 or something, right?
He had 13, and I was just thinking of the difference of those teams. You got Messi with Suarez, Sergio Busquets, Jordi Alba, and then you got Titi Henry with Kenny Cooper, Heath Pierce backing him up, and Dax McCarty. I know which team I'm taking.
Imagine those guys squaring up in a 5v5 right now.
Oh, man.
No, just absolutely insane from Messi. I mean, I don't think anybody really expected anything different from him. I mean, we could all, hope that the Messi experiment goes terribly awry, but just when you have the greatest player of all time in your league, you expect the greatest numbers of all time. So huge for Miami. They have something special cooking there, as much as we hate to admit it. The MLS sicko society does not want to see this happen.
I don't. I'm going to pump the brakes. It's just the Revs. He has done it against every other team.
I was going to say he's done it. He says he has 9 and 7 in 7 games.
Let me see him take it to a powerhouse. Like,
who do you want to see him do it against?
FC Cincinnati.
Monterrey.
Oh, man. No, yeah. I agree with what you're saying. Everything you said is correct.
I think this Miami team's going to be dangerous for the rest of the year now that they don't have Champions League to focus on. I think they're going to be a real threat for everybody they play against. Because, realistically now, you've seen it already. Like, those star guys want to play a full game. And the only thing that was really keeping them from doing it was multiple competitions. So now I think you're going to see Messi start playing full 90s. Suarez maybe playing a full 90. Busquets, Alba. That's a scary prospect.
They're going to destroy when they're all on the field, but Copa America's looming. So extended time presumably Argentina is going to make it pretty darn far. And then we've got Leagues Cup. And so I don't see a chance that these guys are all going to make it healthy throughout the gauntlet. But any game where they're all playing, yeah, it's not going to surprise me if a lot of score lines look like this.
I agree. I think Messi's the only one that will be gone for Copa America. I don't think Suarez is going.
You think they're not going to give him one last ride into the sunset?
Nah, they got Darwin Nunez now. They don't need him anymore.
Just so that one guy can make crappy songs about him. Great songs about him.
Peter BOC.
Well,
let's move on, though.
Let's move on to a bigger game.
To the two best teams in the league, according to some guy on Extra Time I listened to. New York Red Bulls hosted Vancouver Whitecaps to a thrilling 1-1 draw.
Emotional game. You got Brian White, New Jersey boy, coming home. The lights are bright. He's playing for the Whitecaps these days. They traded him away for peanuts from the Red Bulls, and he scores against his former team to become the all-time leading Vancouver Whitecaps goal scorer with a whopping, towering 44 goals.
Oh, man, I love it. You know what's funny is I keep seeing that like narrative, like emotional night. Brian White goes back home. And it just seems like the most like forced narrative I've ever seen because like never played really like substantial minutes for their first team. He got 15 goals for the New York Red Bulls across 3 years. I don't think anybody in New York really cares or remembers about him like very much. I know he came up through their academy and everything, but
I will say one thing I was seeing Red Bull fans saying was when he left, all the fans were clamoring that Tom Barlow should have left as well because they were kind of similar build profiles.
That's a rough place to be if you have those two guys as your striker.
Right. But Brian White at least scored some goals, some clutch goals for them. Barlow, I mean, you saw he had
goals
what,
and
eight goals and
something appearances.
Exactly. If he had 15 for Red Bulls and he has 44 for the Caps, he's almost at about 70 goals already. So
in 6 years, yeah,
he's getting close to the 100-goal mark if he stays healthy.
If he stays at
good for him,
about sub 10 goals a year, which absolutely could see at the Vancouver Whitecaps. But yeah, I mean, huge for him. It was a nice goal as well, a back heel. Lewis Morgan, though. What about this guy?
It's Ryan's boy. Celtic man scored a nice header.
His 8 goals he scored for Celtic. Got to stay faithful to him. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting game, interesting style kind of clash there. I mean, you see two teams that want the other team to have the ball, so kind of interesting. It's always fun watching teams like this play because one team has to change their style for the day, where they are forced to play with the ball instead of just sit back and counterattack.
That's right. I mean, yeah, interesting to. Never did I think that we'd be saying top of the table matchup between the Whitecaps and the Red Bulls in this year in 2024. So, I mean, well done to both teams. They've had a solid year. But New York City FC hosted Charlotte, and they won 2-1. New York City FC gets a stoppage time winner, and yeah, another 3 points for Nick Cushing and the boys. City looking.
They're in 6th place.
Better.
They're 2 wins and a draw behind Miami, which is absolutely crazy.
That's MLS, baby.
It's crazy. They're 4 points off of Cincinnati right now because they looked horrible at the beginning of the year. Did you see the video of I forget who it was from New York City, like doing a pep talk in the locker room before the game?
Yes, I did see that.
He was doing like the classic like Italian hand emoji thing and just like screaming at everybody.
We want to win.
Today is the time. Like just going off. I loved it. But New York City absolutely turning their fortunes around. They've looked a lot better, and I don't really know what the change is. Like they're not scoring a lot of goals, really. I mean, they've been good. But, I mean, They haven't managed more than 2 goals in any of their games, so they're not scoring a lot, which is kind of was their issue. So, I mean, they've had a pretty, I wouldn't even say a favorable run of the schedule. I mean, they played Cincy, then Miami, then Atlanta. 3 really tough games. They managed to get a couple points out of it. Then they've had New England, easy game. DC, not a very easy game. Charlotte, Colorado up next.
Good for them. I mean, yeah. I don't know what else there is to say. Honestly, this isn't a complete transparency, not a top tier team for me to watch. A lot of times it feels like just a little bit of luck goes your way. You're getting bounces. You're scoring in games where normally you're not. And it looks a lot better on the table. Because I remember beginning of the year, they were calling for Cushing's head, coach of NYCFC. So he gets the pressure off of him. He's doing just enough until they bring in Mbappe in the summer.
Him and Kevin De Bruyne. Kevin De Bruyne is a player manager.
That'd be wild.
Him and Vincent Kompany.
We're going to move on to Orlando hosting Toronto FC. Orlando sucks. This is crazy.
I need to check in on Orlando Fan TV. I haven't watched any of their videos in a while.
They lose 2-1 at home to Toronto, who had been in a terrible run of form. And Duncan McGuire gets a goal, but yeah, Orlando on 9 points on the year. They just haven't looked good at all. Toronto goes up to 4th place, even though they've been so cheeks lately. So Luis Muriel hasn't been great at all for them. Duncan McGuire is still scoring goals for this team, but Orlando City, man, what a disappointing year, because most people were picking them as maybe not winning the Shield, but competing for the Shield. This is supposed to be a top-tier team.
I don't even know what really has gone wrong for this team. They had such a good core group of players coming back. I think I know what it is, actually. I think I just discovered it.
Is it Nico Ladero?
Nico Ladero joins, and this team just absolutely just turns into just cheeks. They were so good last year, and they were so good the year before that, and they've really been progressing towards something great. And then they bring in Nico Ladero. I don't want to put all the blame on him, but I mean, it seemed like the right move on paper, and he hasn't really produced much for them at all. Like you said, Luis Muriel hasn't looked good. They're having to still rely on a draft pick up top as striker over like a very well-accomplished European striker. I kind of love that. I love that. That's for
peak
MLS. You got a draft an MLS draft striker in his second year, producing better than like one of the all-time, I wouldn't say all-time greats, but like modern era like great of Serie A.
Definitely. That's like peak MLS. I used to love when you had more of that bigger European kind of big name player coming over from Europe, and they'd go against MLS, and usually they were an attacker, right? You got Thierry Henry, Kaká, David Villa, and then you just have a game where just some MLS lifer guy who got or who just came out of the draft from like Wisconsin, making like the league minimum $70K, and he just like pockets like Frank Lampard, or you know
my best experience of this that I remember specifically was Marco Farfan pocketing Zlatan Ibrahimovic at Providence Park. Absolutely shutting him down, couldn't go anywhere. Man had to play like a 30-yard back pass to his right back.
That's what we do in Major League Soccer. But we're going to move on. Philadelphia Union lose their first game 2-1 at home to Real Salt Lake, who continues to just win these big games on the road. They've got 3 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws on the road. Pretty nuts. And they're in first place in the West now. Absolutely cooking teams. And this is another team where their social media managers are just unhinged online. They were posting like, it's always sunny in Philadelphia, but they had it all in lowercase, and then they put like 3 L emojis in Philadelphia.
Oh, man.
And just What a weird team. How do these teams even have beef? I don't think they do. I think Salt Lake are just like, they got a bunch of weird people running the social media.
I think it's just them against the world because they've just been
because everybody forgets about them.
Everybody just forgets about them, and it's just you get the same mentality from Colorado. It's like Colorado against the world. It's just the Rocky Mountain way, I guess.
I feel like Philly thought of themselves like that as well. Like, no one likes us, we don't care. But
I think almost every MLS fan base, it's like not LA or New York or Miami probably feels that way.
You're probably right. But yeah, huge game. Gazdag scored for the Union, became joint all-time scorer for Philly.
That's crazy.
I was looking this up, actually. Who did he tie the record for to be all-time tied with for all-time?
CJ Sapong.
He was pretty darn close on that list. Some legends were on this list. It was 55 or 56 goals, I forget. But Daniel Gazdag is tied with.
Oh, man. Who?
From our favorite era of MLS, Sebastian Letou.
Oh, man.
Sebastian Letou.
Forgot about that guy.
Jack McInerney was lower on the list as well. So
that's awesome.
I had a fun time reading about that. But anyway, we're not going to give RSL credit because we got to go to the thrilling game. We're going to spend 10 seconds on Chicago Fire hosting Atlanta United, a 0-0 draw in Chicago. Nothing I want to say.
Let's go, Chicago. This is huge. This is huge for them.
I'm not even going to look. We always joked about how Chicago's always like 1 or 2 spots below the playoffs in like 10th place. They're in 12th. 12th place.
Hey, they're 3 points off a playoff spot, and they're going to remain there all season long. This is just...
Globe us out. FC Dallas hosting Houston Dynamo. Copa Tejas match, and Dallas wins 2-0. Peter Musa, Sebastian Ibeaga scores for Dallas. Griffin Dorsey gets a red card in the 5th minute. Dallas gets a win, but Houston losing back-to-back games to Austin and Dallas. What are your takeaways?
It's tough to go away and play in Texas, even when you are from Texas. I don't know. I don't know what to think of this Houston team. I thought they were going to regress a lot this season, and it seemed that was the case at the beginning. And then they kind of went on this crazy run of form that made me eat my words. But now I want to put it back out there. I think they're going to be bad this season. I think they're going to be a lower tier playoff spot, if not miss the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe they just weren't up for this game. It's just, what is going on with Houston?
And
the players are there, the system is there, they have everything, but what's going on?
It's tricky because it's still not early. We're about almost a third of the season. They're 5 points off of first place. They've been missing a lot of players a lot. Hector Herrera just got back, but then they're also 5 points off of 12th place. Like, they're pretty mid-tier right now, it feels like. Dallas, hugely needed win, puts them up to eight points right now. Much winning, but a couple more results, they're back right into the playoff fold. They've been dealing with injuries as well, so it's a much needed step in the right direction. Moving on, Minnesota hosting Sporting Kansas City, some Midwest action, a 2-1 win for Minnesota. You got Michael Boxall scoring. Oluwase, I think is how it's pronounced, scoring what SKC fans were saying was an offside goal, what PV brought the tablet out for in his press conference. I want to point out, too, all last podcast, I was saying Jack Ramsey. It's Eric Ramsey, Minnesota's head coach. Jack Ramsey's a former Portland Trail Blazers head coach.
Close enough. What is going on with SKC? They've had a rough last few games. I mean, last week, just absolutely bodied by St. Louis. And then the week before, losing to Miami 3-2. And then obviously before that, the infamous 3-3 with the Portland Timbers, where they scuffed a 3-goal lead.
Then before that, 2-0 up on the Galaxy at home, lost 3-2.
That was true. That was a couple weeks before, because the game...
That's right. They got 1-1 in there.
They won against Toronto away. So just I don't know. This is like a weird time in MLS. I feel like this happens every year. You get the teams that are the contenders and then the pretenders, and I feel like SKC is a true pretender. They're kind of just floundering right now.
They're one of those teams where it feels like they can turn it on, and when they do turn it on, they can be toe-to-toe with like anybody, but then they just turn it on 5 to 10% of the time only, and that's it. And then they just have these monumental collapses, kind of like our team, as we'll get to. But
I don't want to take away from Minnesota here, though. Minnesota has been good so far this season. They're sitting in 4th place, a point off the top of the Western Conference.
One at home as well. Only
one at home. Win. That doesn't happen very often. Minnesota looking good, though. I mean, they're kind of settling in under their new coach. They've got a good core group of guys, and I mean, possibly looking at some big summer moves here. Good spot. Good spot nice. If you're a Loons fan right now.
Nashville hosting San Jose. This is a weird game, weird matchup. A 1-1 draw. You got Mukhtar scoring on one head, Skahan on the other, I think is how it's pronounced. Doesn't really do a whole lot for either team, honestly. Quakes with that point are still in last place in the West and tied for last place in the league. They are on 0.4 points per game.
Yikes.
Nashville is second to last place in the East. They got 8 points. Both teams needed that. They needed 3 points there, but at least for the Quakes, like we mentioned, new number 10, they signed from Argentina. He was actually Diego Maradona's nephew. Did you see that?
No. But I hope nobody latches onto that and makes a news story out of it, because
Hernan Lopez from Godoy Cruz in the Argentinian League, club record transfer, designated player, number 10, related to Maradona.
Is this the beginning of the change for San Jose?
No. But step in the right direction, because I don't think this is going to change their season. I mean, maybe. They have literally nowhere else to go but up.
This just feels to me like ownership putting in, like, they're buying one guy and it's going to be like, that's it. Fix it. Make it better.
I mean, to be fair, on paper, it feels like this is
what they needed.
This is what they needed when we talked about how to fix San Jose. Most people knew they needed another creative option other than Espinosa on the wing. It should free up space for him, for Abobasi, for Pellegrino. Should get them a lot more chances. And, I mean, like I said, there's literally nowhere else to go other than up. So I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful if I'm a Quakes fan because of this.
With this guy joining, does Abobasi get more than 10 goals this season?
No.
I'm absolutely taking the over. Abobasi dream, like, second half of the season. I'm calling it right here.
I'm not, but I respect that.
Abobasi MVP run? Question mark. He tops Chicho Arango's number. Beats off Leo Suarez, but just combined two of Miami's greatest players.
Yeah,
Let's move on.
Let's move on.
I don't want to talk about San Jose anymore. As much as I love Abobasi, and I want to see him do well.
You're not going to want to talk about this one too long, but it's our last one. LAFC hosting our beloved Portland Timbers. LAFC, I almost called them the Galaxy. LAFC wins 3-2 at home.
You mean the Chivas?
Nuts game. LAFC's up 2-0. Portland storms back 2-2. They tie it up. And then Diego Chara gets a red card in a record-breaking 377th appearance for Portland. Denny Bouanga scores in stoppage time, wins the game for LAFC. Thoughts?
I don't even know where to start. The Timbers are just very poor defensively, and it doesn't seem to have any real glaring issue other than, I mean, it's looked better the past few weeks, but shaky center back pairing when you have Zach McGraw back there just running in quicksand, and they got two just attacking fullbacks, And it doesn't help that the one guy is supposed to be giving them covers 38 years old. Granted, he's probably the greatest center defensive mid in league history. I'd say I'm a little biased, but I can't think of anybody else who's better.
I wanted to pick your bone with that because I was reading on Reddit because, Diego Chara, 377 appearances for Portland, becomes the player with the most appearances for a single club in MLS. Legendary player, been there since 2011, and like I do, I scour the depths of garbage on the internet. I was on Reddit, and on the MLS Reddit, they posted that, and pretty much everybody was saying best defensive midfielder in league history, right? A lot of Portland fans were agreeing. We're lucky to have him, all this conjecture. And then respect, because I saw one Sounders fan comment, and they were having discourse with a Timbers fan, and he said, if this was like 5 years ago, I'd say Ozzy Alonso and him are like tied or like neck and neck, or maybe Alonso takes it, but it's close. But due to Chara's longevity and his impact for one team, I think it's undeniably Chara. This was a Sounders fan saying it, so you got to tip the cap. I'd say
he speaks for all Sounders fans. Seattle Sounders, post it right now on your Instagram. Diego Chara is the best CDM in league history.
I think the three, at least from the era where we started watching, about 2011, it's Chara, Kyle Beckerman, and Ozzy Alonso. The top three. I think you can put Chara number one comfortably now, and number two, I think you could go either or.
Yeah, I'd say it's close. That was the other guy I was thinking of. Was Beckerman is probably the only other guy to really challenge Chara, but if you're looking at just MLS, I would put Chara above him. I think the thing that pushes Beckerman up higher for a lot of people is his performances with the national team, which, dude, if Chara wasn't ever capped for Colombia, imagine him in the he would still be playing in the national team right now.
Dude, we would have made the 2018 World Cup.
We would have won the 2018 World Cup.
Could you picture just because if things went a little differently, 2018, we would have been in that fourth spot for CONCACAF, meaning we're in the group with England and was it Morocco in that group? I forget. Tunisia, I think, as well. Something like that. England was in it, I know. You got Diego Chara just hunting down Harry Kane.
Just absolutely just studs up. Just ends his career. Dude, I would have loved to see Chara in that game against Trinidad and Tobago.
Dude, he would not have had any of that.
There's no way. There's no way Trinidad would have scored 2 goals. Maybe one. Maybe one where Chara, he's on the other side of the field or something. He's still tracking back.
Where Omar Gonzalez kicks the ball straight in the air and it falls in the net somehow. I always think about that and this is not about that, but whenever I see stuff about that game, it just pains me because that game, that team, that era of the national team died that night. Tim Howard, Bradley,
all those guys, clean shop. Just get rid of all of them.
Dempsey, and I know for Dempsey, you're not a big fan, but those guys were like the heroes for U.S. soccer for us, plus Landon Donovan. And it would have been really cool to see them in one more World Cup, but we never got it.
It's a real bummer. But what can you do?
Not lose to Trinidad and Tobago 2-1 on the road.
That was the name of our group chat for a while. It was just 2-1.
It was a lot of cruel jokes because of that game. But that's the week in MLS. Who is your star of the week? Messi
Caleb
got
Porter.
the award, but Caleb Porter. Mine is mine's whoever gave that NYCFC locker room speech that we were talking about. Respect to that. Respect to the boys. But
I don't know if I'm going serious, like a real serious star of the week, other than Messi, of course. I don't know.
I mean, Benteke got 2 goals, but I don't want to say him just because he beat the Sounders, but I do.
I mean, any of the 3 guys, becoming leading goal scorers for their clubs, it's a good shout. Yoder Obrion's, celebrating at an appropriate time after scoring a goal. Lucho Acosta getting hair extensions as a grown man.
Oh man, we're gonna turn the corner here. We're not even in an hour yet. We're flying through this. This is what happens.
This is a quick episode. We got clubs after this, man.
I haven't played clubs in 2 weeks, so I'm pretty stoked to.
Still playoffs, I think.
Oh man, we're gonna turn up tonight. Moving on, we got a little bit of a game here. So, with Brian White, story of the week in world soccer, becoming the all-time leading Whitecaps goal scorer, it got me thinking, who's other all-time leading goal scorers for their MLS clubs? And then I heard Lucho Acosta broke the record. And then I heard Daniel Gazdag tied the record for all-time leading goal scorer for Philly. So I started to look up stuff, and every club pretty much is the exact person that comes to mind when you do this. So it got me thinking again.
Kakuta Mane. Kai Kamara for like 5 different clubs.
That's right, man. Brian White, like I mentioned, was traded for absolute peanuts in an inter-MLS trade, which I feel like it's a kind of unique thing to MLS. You don't really see trades happen in a lot of global soccer leagues, right? You see transfers, but not a player for another player or a player for a lump sum of cash plus a player. That sort of thing happens in MLS. So I wanted to spit out some names, some high-profile MLS players who have been traded from one team to another, and Chase is going to blind rank them 1 through 5. Are you ready?
I'm absolutely ready.
I'm going to give you the player, the teams they transferred to and from, give you a little bit of stats about their fee, a little bit of what they did in their new markets. You can rank this however you want. Best bargain for your buck, best impact with the team, trophies won, what it did for their career, whatever you want to do. It's up to you. So, we're going for the first one. Alistair Johnson. In 2022, Nashville SC transferred to Montreal for $1 million GAM and a 10% sell-on clause. Alistair Johnson only played 1 season for Montreal and then made the move to Celtic.
How much GAM was it again?
1 million.
1 million GAM for only 1 season is rough. What was his output that year? Do you know? Or how many games did he even play for them?
He did make a lot of appearances for them. He pretty much started every game. He made 33 appearances, 4 goals, nearly won the Shield. They were number 2 in the East. Pretty much got locked into the national team for Canada for that point as well. So take it as you wish.
I don't know. That's kind of tough because any move, especially GAM, like interleague, $1 million for only 1 year that's pretty bad.
I'll give you a tidbit that might change your mind. They sold him for $5 million. So they made a $4 million profit, which I guess a little less because Nashville got 10% of that. But Alistair Johnson, where does he go in your top 5?
I feel like there's got to be some worse moves than this, but if I'm just going bang for the buck, because he's a great player, but if I'm going bang for the buck, I'm going 4.
Number 4. Okay.
Put him at 4. We're just doing 5, right?
We're doing 5 here.
All right, put him at 4.
All right. I'm going to go Kellen Acosta, Colorado Rapids to LAFC.
Ooh.
So I could have done FC Dallas to Rapids, but I'm going Rapids to LAFC. This is 1.1 million GAM plus 400K in incentives. Colorado have a sell-on clause as well for Kellen Acosta, and that's for if he's transferred out of MLS. So LAFC had him for 2 years. They won 1 MLS Cup, made it to another, won a Shield for him, and he pretty much was a starter both seasons. So a lot of value.
I'm going to go comfortably at 2 there. Just purely because of the success they had and how important he was to that. Because he he was huge for them. He kind of, I mean, he anchored down their midfield, but he played a lot of important roles for them at LAFC. So I'm going to go 2. That's for what they got in return for their money. I think that's well worth it.
Bit of a throwback for you. 2017, Dom Dwyer, Sporting Kansas City to Orlando City, $900K combined GAM and TAM, with another $700K in incentives. It was the biggest package in league history as of 2022, and he hit every incentive. So it was 1.6 million GAM total, 67 games, 24 goals, made the playoffs 1 time. So he had a great success rate of goals, decent.
This is when he went to Orlando
from Kansas City.
That's tough because honestly, during that period of Orlando's history, that was a big move for them, and it looked good. I mean, he kind of was going back to his roots as well because he played there when they were USL. Which, shout out to him, he's back in the USL. So
he made it to the national team this summer as well. So he was on the U.S. team. He was an all-star. Like, this was announced during All-Star Weekend, actually. So he was wearing like a SKC badge at first on his jersey. So,
and he looked great when he was at SKC, but I don't know if I could really blame him for them not making the playoffs because from what I remember during that era of Orlando, their issue wasn't scoring goals. It was more so their defense was never very solid. I'll throw him in the middle. I'll go 3 because that's, I don't know. I mean, I guess return on the money, you'd want a guy to really just take hold of this team and guide it. But it's not worse than Alistair Johnson, though. I'll throw him at 3 because he had a good return. He had a decent, run out there. But it gives me like Ola Kamara vibes. Like definitely like a serviceable forward, not bad, but I don't think I would have put him at like a DP level during that time period.
Okay, I respect that.
Don't tell me Ola Kamara's on this list too.
No. So you've got number 4. You went with
Alistair Johnson.
Alistair Johnson. Could not think of that. Number 3, you went Dom Dwyer. Number 2, Kellen Acosta. Next up, Walker Zimmerman. LAFC
Ooh.
to Nashville. Winter of 2020. This was ahead of Nashville's first season, so they got their guy, became their captain right away. He came from LAFC, remember. They had just won the Shield the previous season, very close to MLS Cup, and since then became back-to-back Defender of the Year, regular with the national team for 125,000 or 1.25 million GAM.
I think I gotta throw him at 1. They haven't really won anything since he's been there, but he's by far, I'd say, their most important player. Even more important than Hani Mukhtar, because without him, their whole system just completely crumbles of just lock-in defense, sit deep. Without him, they look like an absolute shell of the team that they should be. So I would say he's arguably the most important guy out of all these players that you've listed so far for a team.
I think you're correct because Nashville is what it is because of Zimmerman and the back line and what they've done there.
Imagine them going with like another random MLS like center back instead. Like imagine they just picked up like Aaron Long or like just some other obscure just random MLS center back. I don't think it would have been the same as what it is now because Walker Zimmerman at his time at Nashville has become probably the best center back for the U.S. men's national team as well. Just
he's been really good all around.
Absolute monster.
So this leaves you at number 5. You're going to hate yourself here. Darlington Nagbe.
I knew it. I knew that was going to be on this list.
The record amount of inter-MLS trade money, 1.05 GAM plus TAM million. And weirdly enough here, he had, when he transferred from Portland to Atlanta, And I'm gonna count the Atlanta one here. I wasn't gonna do Columbus because that would be like way too much. But weirdly enough, when Portland traded him to Atlanta, 1.05 million cam. When Atlanta traded him to Columbus, 1.05 million gam. The exact same amount of money.
Just made their money back after winning a title with him.
Right. Nagbe in 2 years in Atlanta, 55 games started, won the Open Cup, won MLS Cup, won Campeones Cup, 3 trophies. One of them's kind of a Mickey Mouse trophy, but 2 real trophies. And
Talking about MLS Cup?
Of course, man. And then since then, 2 MLS Cups with Columbus. Saw a weird stat, too. Obviously, this is rings for a Portland fan, but every MLS Cup he's played has either involved Portland or Columbus. It's like...
That is weird. That's wild.
Yeah. So, kind of weird, but... So that leaves your list. Man. Nagbe at number 5. Number 4... You got Alistair Johnson. Number 3, Dom Dwyer. Number 2, Kellen Acosta. Number 1, Walker Zimmerman.
I think the only thing I would probably just put Nagbe at 1 and then bump everybody down 1. Because Nagbe has been the most successful out of all those guys. Everywhere he's gone. That guy is one of my favorite players I've ever watched.
Right.
He's the guy that I'm going to tell my grandchildren to watch one day.
But he didn't play in a real league. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you find joy in something.
Doesn't matter. Screw me for being an MLS fan.
That's my game.
I want to say that to these random like Euro snobs I see every time like a puberty like sport or like 433 like
I know the account you're talking about. I thought you were just calling Euro snobs.
Oh no. Like one of those Instagram accounts like post something, I just see a bunch of Euro snobs like, well, MLS hamburger defending league, like God, I just want to just grab them by the collar of their shirt and just talk some sense into those fools.
Let people enjoy things.
Exactly. Unless you like the Prem. Do not enjoy that. That is mine and Jacob's hard stance we will always take. Anyways, I have a list for you as well. You did interleague. You went with signings that were made between teams. I was going to go out of league signings, and then I went one step further. In light of Leo Messi having the greatest start in MLS history across 7 games, I wanted to go with just the big names. So I want you to blind rank the worst signings of these high-profile players.
Oh, boy.
So from 1st to 5th, 1st being the worst, 5th being the best
Not
of the
as
worst.
Okay.
First up, we have Steven Gerrard going to LA Galaxy with a pay package of $4 million. Where are you putting this guy at? He accomplished zilch other than getting like burned defensively. And I love Steven Gerrard, but his time in MLS and apparently telling some guy at a urinal that he didn't care about MLS. I don't know, some weird story there.
Don't waste your time. Yeah, I mean, one of those players where it's like cool, like Steven Gerrard plays in like that's cool, right? But it didn't really do much. Played for the Galaxy for 2 pretty not great years for them when they were kind of past it, and Gerrard was bad. I'm saving the number 1 though for who I hope is on this list. So I'm gonna go number 2. Can I tell you something I hate though? 2015 MLS All-Star Game time comes around, and Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, both announced as signings in 2015 in the January transfer window, but they were going to join their MLS team, the Galaxy and City for Lampard, after the summer transfer window opened. They were remaining at their Premier League clubs, right? Whatever. So they joined in the summer, right? And they finally joined, but it's All-Star Weekend. Neither one have made an appearance for their MLS club, and Don Garber selected both of them to the MLS All-Star team. I was at that All-Star game in Denver. They both got selected, but then both of them were injured and didn't play in the game even, or something like that went down. And I remember they interviewed Kai Kamara, who was the Golden Boot winner that year, and he had like a crazy amount of goals, and he scored all these goals, and he like made some complaint like to the press that MLS doesn't care. This thing's a joke. Like, they just calling in the big name players. And there was this funny segment actually on ESPN. This is a long story, but also that summer, Didier Drogba signed like last minute in MLS. And so they're interviewing Kai Kamara. This is before Drogba had signed. And they're interviewing him live on ESPN. And the host makes this prank, and he's like, "Oh, we just got word. Sorry, Kai. Like, Didier Drogba has just been announced to the 2015 MLS All-Star team. Same thing as Gerrard. Hadn't played a game. Barely even made a signing announce." And Kai Kamara's just like, "Man, are you serious?" Like, live on TV. And they're like, "No, we're just kidding. Actually, you've been named to the All-Star team." And that's how they broke the news to him.
That's wild. I love Kai Kamara.
I do too.
That was a weird. I remember.
Sorry, that was a weird story.
No, I remember when they named that, and like everybody who was a true MLS fan is like, "What is going on here?" Because like, it's not much, but there is like a little bit of like a financial incentive to it, plus like the accolade that goes next to your name when you retire one day. So like having that taken away from guys who were actually putting in the work in MLS that year and just giving it to Gerrard and Lampard, who that's like the very last thing on their list of accolades, kind of sucks.
Pretty trash. So I'm taking Gerrard at 2.
Next up, we got Didier Drogba to Montreal with a pay package of $4 million. Didn't accomplish anything in MLS, in my opinion.
He
other
really,
than just like tackling a goalie.
That was Steve Clark, actually. That's a tricky one because he did score a lot of goals. But, I mean, yeah, he didn't accomplish much. But also, Montreal was a pretty bad team. I will say, like, Montreal in 2016 made it to the conference final. They were a game away from MLS Cup and lost to Toronto, who is one of the best MLS teams of all time. So, I'm going to put Drogba at 3 because of that. Ahead of Gerrard.
So at 3. All right, next up, you have Andrea Pirlo.
Yep.
For New York City FC with a pay package of $3.5 million.
That's exactly who I was banking on. And you already know he's going at 1. Worst big name MLS signing.
Are you judging this purely based off like their performance, or are you going anything based off the money here? Because he did get paid less than the previous 2 guys. Not substantially, but he did get paid less than the other 2.
You see, for me, Drogba undeniably had a better impact, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the cash. He did make the playoffs both seasons as well. Made it pretty far one year. Pirlo didn't do anything except not play defense and just get exposed by these young, pacey wingers.
That was rough.
And you just remember that one clip, you already know what I'm talking about, where he's standing on a corner kick defending. Some player just scores a bullet header, and Pirlo just has like his arm on the post, doesn't even attempt to jump for the ball. It's like right above his head. He was such a class player too, but like, what a waste for MLS, because that you could just tell he didn't care.
That must be the worst feeling. Everybody's had that experience when you play on a team. You have that one guy who just like gives up and doesn't care like defensively and just wants the ball and wants to attack. Like that must have been what it was like, but like on a professional level with a guy who's won World Cups and like so many more trophies than you, and you're just like a draft pick like trying to tell him to get back on defense. That must have been wild. All right, next up though, we got Alexander Pato to Orlando City with a pay package of $1.5 million. Substantially less than these other guys.
Much less, so oh man, I don't want to give him 5 as the best out of this list, but so I'm going to go number 4.
He had a pretty underwhelming time at Orlando. I mean, it was a 1-year contract. He played not even 20 games. It was. I don't even know how many goals he scored at Orlando as well. It was pretty poor. Let me pull it up real quick. So he had 26 games, scored 3 goals.
Yeah, that's not great.
But
I would put him behind Drogba. I think Drogba did more, and
putting him at 4.
I honestly forgot Pato played in MLS.
I think that's what most people say. That's what most people say about Pato. The one thing I will say about him compared to some of these other guys is like some of these other guys actually set their club back, like Pirlo, Gerrard, not necessarily Drogba, but those guys, like the money they brought in and like the attention they took just set their club back from being able to develop. Pato didn't really do that. They still had that young core around him, and he didn't really set that club back. So
that's a good point. He's more of just like a not great signing.
Yeah.
Kind of your average not great signing.
I would agree. This leaves you with number 5. You'll be kicking yourself here. The best signing, Frank Lampard to New York City FC with a pay package of $6 million. The biggest pay package out of all of these.
Yeah, he scored like not a great amount of goals as a midfielder, but he did get a decent chunk of goals, if I recall correctly, but not a great tenure. I remember he was one who was supposed to join, actually, because when New York City was created, they started in March of 2015. He was supposed to be there. He was supposed to report to training in January when MLS training camp happened. So New York City FC signed him from Chelsea when he played his last game for Chelsea. Then they loaned him to Man City, and he was only supposed to play till the winter window. Well, he was doing decent there, so he wanted to stay. So he ended up staying. So his new club that he signed for, this project, they didn't have their star player, one of them, and then he came in the summer. You could just tell he was overweight. He just like I said, he had class, but it just he scored some goals, made a difference, but I would probably shift this. So he's my number 5. I've got best Lampard, then Pato, then Drogba, then Gerrard, then Pirlo. I would put Lampard at 3, and then I'd just switch him with Drogba. Drogba at number 5.
I think that's fair. Yeah, that he did. Lampard had a surprising amount of goals, 15 goals in 29 games. So about a goal every other game. Not bad for a midfielder. It is kind of funny looking at his career and seeing like it's a short list of teams, but 429 appearances with Chelsea and then 32 with Man City and 29 with New York City FC. It's kind of funny. It's just like these weird outliers for him to end his career. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun looking back at like some of these names. There were some other ones when I was looking earlier at like some big names that you kind of forget like came to MLS. Like Nesta's one that we always talk about.
Always forget him.
I always butcher his name, but like Lothar Matthaus, or that one like German legend. We were just talking about him before this, Carlos Valderrama, El Pibe. I love that guy. He was fun to watch. There's so many legends that came into this league that I feel like aren't appreciated and kind of helped take the league to another level.
I love like a healthy mix of. I don't mind if they sign some of these guys occasionally. Like I'm going to use Shaqiri as an example, even though that's not a great one because he hasn't done well. But Chicago is also a club who's sold off Jan Duran, Gaga Slonina. Like it hasn't hindered their development. They've been a crap team, don't get me wrong, but because it is kind of cool to see your local team, see a player like Schweinsteiger, Kaká come to your home stadium, and watching players like that. When Dempsey came back, it was a big deal. David Villa is cool to see. It is cool to see, but it shouldn't be at the expense of signing and developing younger talent as well, in my opinion.
No, I agree. It is kind of fun though, looking back at some of the talent that has come through and being able to see the development of this league. I mean, now we're at a point where we have Leo Messi. But looking back at some of these old names that like a lot of people don't even really know played in this league. Like, tell me a story about Hristo Stoichkov, who played for Chicago Fire.
No, I can't.
Exactly. He's the best Bulgarian footballer of all time. He was second. He came second in the Ballon d'Or 2 times in his career. But
crazy.
Played in this league, and a lot of people will probably never remember him.
For me,
in this league, at least, I'm sure a lot of Bulgarians might. But
the one I always forget, and it's not one player, it's one team, and we just kind of alluded to it. Montreal has a surprising amount of, and not near that caliber of player, right?
Yeah.
Where you were just mentioning, but they had Drogba, Alessandro Nesta, Marco Di Vaio. They had Bakary Sagna, Victor Wanyama was there, Bojan, forget his full name, but the Barca wonder kid. Just weird that Montreal, of all teams, gets those players. You had Freddie Lundberg go to Seattle Sounders.
That was a weird one.
And then, in a rare instance, he was a DP player for Seattle. They traded him as a DP to Chicago Fire, which is one of the rare times that's ever happened in MLS. Some MLS lore for you guys.
There's some real lore. How many? This is kind of also obscure, but how many Ballon d'Or winners have played in MLS? I know there were some back when it was the NASL, before it was MLS. How many? What's your guess here?
2, maybe 3.
You're gonna be surprised. In the MLS era, there's been 4. There's been Messi, Kaká. That Stoichkov, he actually did win a Ballon d'Or. Then you got Mataus. And then in the NASL era, you had Franz Beckenbauer, George Best, Johan Cruyff, Eusebio, and Gerd Muller. It's almost 10 Ballon d'Or winners have come and played in the U.S., which is...
It's like more than the Premier League.
It might be pretty dang close, actually.
Oh, man. I'm just kidding. People are going to think I'm a stupid American who doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Oh, man.
Shall we do some predictions and then play FIFA for 6 hours?
I would love nothing more.
We're going to start off Orlando City hosting Cincinnati. I do not have faith in Orlando, the boys in purple. I'm going 2-0 Cincy on the road.
I'm going to go 2-1. I think Orlando snags a goal. Duncan McGuire just absolutely shreds this defense. And that's that. Next up, though, a thrilling game of 2 titans in this league. You got the Chicago Fire taking on the New England Revolution. And for me, this game hinges on what we hear Thursday afternoon. Does Caleb Porter come out and guarantee a win? Because if this man comes out after a training session Thursday or Friday and he guarantees it, you know it's going to happen. If not, I think Chicago runs away with it. I see yours here, but I'm going to go New England 1-0. I'm going purely off vibes. I think this might be why I just always suck at these when we do this. I'm at like a 9-point like gap right now behind you. I want just the fun narratives. I always go up purely off the vibes and the narratives. Who do you got?
Yeah, this is I got the Chicago Fire 3-1 at home. One of these days, the floodgates are going to open, man. Hugo Keepers is going to just be banging them in. You're going to have Killen Acosta just scoring from 80 yards out when the wind picks up the ball. And I don't know, man. I think it's time for a Fire win.
I think you're wrong. I think it's going to be 1-0, and you're going to see Nick Lima scoring a banger from 70 yards out.
It is going to be another emotional night. Matt Polster's coming home to Chicago against the Fire. You couldn't write a script like that. Bottom of the table below the playoff line. Frank Klopas, who probably coached him like 3 separate times on 2 different rebrand years for the Fire.
Oh, man. Anyways, last game up, we got Miami hosting the New York Red Bulls. I think this is going to be a thrilling game. Red Bulls don't want the ball. They want to sit back. They want to counter, and they are pretty dang good at it. But I'm going Miami 4-3. I think. Do they have midweek action again this week? Even if they do, I still am going Miami. I think it might be another week till they play down in Monterrey.
Which team?
Miami?
Oh, they're out.
Oh, they're out. Why? I was confusing them with Columbus. Yep, no midweek action. I'm going Miami wins.
You got 4-3, a lot of goals. I agree. I'm going 2-2 draw. I think Messi, Suarez, somebody like that scores. But the Red Bulls have been a stubborn team, and they find ways. You know, Lewis Morgan wouldn't mind coming back to Florida, the team that traded him away. He scored a hat trick on him last time. You know he's gonna be.
Did they win last time?
Yeah.
Not gonna happen again.
I don't think so. But he's gonna get a cheeky goal, maybe even a brace, or maybe he gives Dante Van Zier a couple assists. You pick. It's 19-10 in the standings for points. I'm up. 9-point gap right now, but remember, 3 points for guessing the score and result correct, 1 point for the result correct, 0 points if you miss and you suck.
Those are all season long, basically.
Oh man,
it has been rough. I think the vibes are going to be higher. I think my picks are going to be completely correct. I'm going.
We disagreed on 2 of them, so. Somebody should be right unless we somehow miss them all, which has happened before.
Yeah, that did happen. we disagreed on all 3, and the third option happened for every single game.
Which is crazy. We guessed 6 out of the 9 results, and somehow the other 3 results happened.
Oh, man. Do we even break an hour this episode? It felt like we just flew through that.
Hour 17. That's a good podcast.
Not bad.
Length.
Not bad. We're going to now just sit here and...
We're just going to let it record while we play games.
We're just going to play FIFA and periodically just name an obscure MLS player into the microphone.
It's what we're going to do either way if the cameras are... If the mics are rolling, so...
We'll call it there, though. Thank you all for listening. Follow us on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it.
MLS Net Boys.
Send us emails. Send us questions.
MLS Net Boys.
Send us intros. Send us intro suggestions.
Send us hate mail.
Send us hate mail. Send us jerseys. Send me coupons for Jersey mics. Send us whatever you want. Yeah,
I have nothing to add. I have absolutely nothing
Let's
to
end
add.
it there. This is going off the rails. As always, Chris Durkin, come on the show.